Hello, everybody. My name is Jane Dabaransky, and I am with the MTI Student Association here at San Jose State. We are doing a joint presentation today with the Moneta Transportation Institute on the topic of perfecting your scholarship application. And we have a number of really fantastic speakers lined up today to help you get more knowledge on the different types of scholarships and resources available out there to finance your career development and your education. So as we move through the presentation today, each speaker will present. There will be a little time afterwards to have a couple of questions. And then if there's time remaining at the end of the presentation, we can continue with the Q&A session. But I just wanted to respect the speaker's time and give them enough space in the agenda today to finish their presentation. The agenda is as follows. Right now, we're just doing the welcome, and then we'll have a presentation from CTF, from Sydney Journal, and WTS is next with a presentation by Marcella Renzi. And COMTO will follow with a presentation from Justin and Montgomery and Kimberly Wilson. And finally, we'll have Paige. Sorry, I don't know how to see your last name, but it's Malat. Is that right?
Malat, that's correct.
Malat will give us a presentation on her experience as a scholarship recipient, and then leave some time towards the end for tips and questions for those of you out there attending this presentation. Great. Just a little bit about the MTI Student Association. This is an organization that was developed by students in the grad school program at San Jose State. Moneta, I guess it's the Moneta Transportation Institute Transportation Management grad program. And it's a way for us to get together as a community to support our career development and to learn from each other. And so today's program is one of those things that we wanted to bring to you as students in the community so that you can help develop your career. And if you have any other ideas that you would like to see throughout the year, just reach out to one of us via San Jose State email system. And we'll be happy to consider your recommendation and try to fit it into the schedule this year. Just wanted to introduce our board. This year, we are made up of 3 members in the executive board. First is myself, I'm the president, and followed by Gabby, who is our vice president, and Floor, who is our treasurer. And the 3 of us are in the grad program, transportation management grad program this year. And I believe we are all slated to graduate in the spring. So moving on, I would like to introduce Sydney from the CTF, or the California Transportation Foundation, for her presentation on their scholarships.
Thank you, Jane.
First, let me bring up your presentation real quick here.
Perfect. While you're bringing it up, I am happy to just introduce myself quickly. Sydney Journal. I'm on the board of the California Transportation Foundation, and my day job is in autonomous vehicles based in Mountain View. So if you ever find yourself having questions on that as you transition to whatever comes next, please don't hesitate to reach out. But thank you, Jane, Floor, and Gabby for inviting CTF to present today. I should mention that Jane has been awarded in the past 2 scholarships from CTF, the first student, in fact, to have received 2 scholarships. So she definitely, I'm sure, has some tips and guidance on how best to do that. But just a little bit of background on CTF, California Transportation Foundation. We have a total of 45 scholarships for both high school, undergrad, and grad students, all studying transportation-related fields. And these applications are year-round, so I will cover some of the ones coming up, but certainly there are more, and I'd encourage you to keep an eye out. Since we were founded, we've awarded over 1.7 million in scholarships, so a pretty exciting number there. Next slide, please. A little bit just on the background of CTF. So we are a nonprofit that has a mission to recognize, remember, and educate. That first part, recognize, is really honoring excellence in transportation. And we do that at various awards ceremonies where we recognize individuals and projects. But again, that's a key part of our mission. Next slide, please. The other piece is to remember. And this is particularly focused on providing grants and funds for injured and fallen workers. Just this past year, we established about 8 funds to help workers and their families who were either injured or fallen on the job in California. So this is equally a very important component of our work. Next slide. And then last but not least, the educate piece, which is the one that I think pertains particularly to this group. And that is that we offer 45 scholarships, again, to support students who would like to proceed and would like to pursue a career in transportation related fields. And you'll find that that can be from, working for a city, for a transit agency, or like myself, working for an organization focused on emerging technology and emerging transportation. So it's a wide range. Next slide. So a little bit more on the scholarships themselves. Again, as I mentioned, they are year round. So I'd encourage you all to take a closer look, but these are just some of the, the eligibility requirements as to who can apply. So you can apply if you are an undergraduate or graduate student that intends to apply that degree to a job in transportation. So you'll find all the transportation, urban planning related fields, but you'll find that all the scholarships are related to that. And then you'll see there some of the requirements around citizenship and such. Next slide. So how do you apply? We have a website, so you can see the link right up there. You'll see that they're organized by graduate and undergraduate. They each have various applications and deadlines, and you'll be able to see which ones are open and which ones are coming up. So if we go to the next slide, we use what's called Kaleidoscope, which is where you'll actually do your application. So you will have to create a login. Unfortunately, I feel like that's kind of got to create a login for everything these days. So you do need a login for Kaleidoscope, but from there, you'll then be able to see all of the scholarships we have coming up. And just to give you a kind of sense of what's already up there for the rest of the year, we have a 5,000 Hekroth Memorial Scholarship available in February 2024 for undergraduates who are majoring in civil engineering and plan to pursue a career in transportation. There's a 2,500 Caroline Allen Rodman Scholarship due November 17th for students in the fields of political science or public policy with a focus on transportation. And then there is a 2,000 to 8,000 Memorial Scholarship due November 10th for students preparing for careers in technical fields that could lead to employment with Caltrans. So you can see that on Kaleidoscope, all the specifics related to each of them. And that's just a few examples to give you a flavor, but there are many more than just the 3 that I listed there. Next slide, please. A little bit just on best practices in terms of your application. These are read by the board at CTF. And so what's been really helpful is in the essays, sharing your perspective and giving examples, being creative and confident. This is probably the section that allows us to get to know you best and why this matters to you. In terms of the personal statement, please share with us your life experience, why you've gotten to where you have. If there has been anything challenging that we should be aware of, please share that in the personal statement. And certainly important to give details and examples, but try to keep your answer as concise. There's no bonus points for a longer essay or personal statement. Generally, if you can get it in a few pages, that's ideal and preferred. And then lastly, a resume or activities section Again, highlighting the things that matter to you, any awards, activities, work experience that you think is relevant, anything that showcases your leadership in a topic that you're passionate about, that would be particularly helpful as well. I'm seeing the question there. I believe you will have access to the slides, but Jane, please correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, I will send out the slide decks for after today's meeting. We have the emails of individuals who have signed up for this presentation today, and I will send it out to the entire group.
Perfect. Next slide, please. So that was all about various scholarships, which, we certainly hope that you will consider and apply for and year round and spread the word to other students. But I wanted to mention another opportunity for students that we think might be of interest. And this is our upcoming education symposium on November 16th and 17th in Walnut Creek. This is an event, so I've attended in the past. It's a great event where students get to work with professionals in transportation fields on various projects, to be connected to a mentor, to build that relationship. And generally you have you have a project that you'll work on, and you'll have these mentors providing guidance. And so it's a very interactive type of conference. You won't just be sitting there and watching speakers. You'll actually be actively engaged. We also have, in addition to this, the Mobility Symposium, which is next year in May 2024. And that is virtual. And that's more about hearing from various speakers in the transportation field. And so you can get connect with these professionals, but also get a sense of what are these various career paths that you can take. And I will say that the Mobility Symposium tends to have a little bit more of the emerging tech as well, though this year's Education Symposium in November is actually going to be near the Gomentum test track, where you have a number of autonomous vehicles and other technologies testing. And so my hope is that anyone who attends that will get to do a little tour of the test track as well. And the one thing I should note is that if you attend these, there's also an ability to apply for certain scholarships. So for example, if you attend the Education Symposium, you have access to 3 scholarships ranging from $1,000 to $5,000. And if you attend the Mobility Symposium, there's an opportunity to apply for a $2,500 scholarship as well. Next slide, please. And with that, I think that's all I had today. But certainly if you have any questions, happy to take them now. You have our information there as well. Please take a look at the site. And again, thank you for having us here. We appreciate that there are folks thinking about transportation, and we hope that you will apply to some of our scholarships or attend some of the events.
Great. Thank you so much, Sydney. Do we have questions? Don't think we have any questions at the moment. So you're welcome to stay with us. Oh, Flora has a question. Flora.
Yes, I will ask a question just to help out some of the students. You talked a bit about the conference coming up. How can students be nominated, and where can they learn more about that process?
Yes, so for that one, you can find out about the event online. So I would just, if you type in CTF and Education Symposium, it should pop up. And then in terms of the scholarships themselves, I believe that's either listed online or in Kaleidoscope, that website where we have all of our scholarships listed. But if you're not able to see that, you're welcome to email me or Marnie or Mallory on this slide here, and they can direct you. But it should be on our site and the Kaleidoscope site.
Thank you.
I would like to give the floor to Marcella.
Okay. Well, thank you all.
Okay, let me just share the slideshow.
Okay.
Okay, hold on.
Well, while you're adjusting, my name's Marcella Renzi, and like our previous speaker, I do have a day job. I'm the Deputy Director of Grants and Allocations at VTA. a small transit agency located not too far away from MTI. I'm also the local WTS chapter's scholarship chair. We're the San Francisco Bay chapter, which covers the 9-county San Francisco Bay Area and also the 3-county Monterey Bay Area. Okay, if I could get the next slide. So WTS was founded in the mid-1980s to promote women in transportation field. And one of the ways that WTS does this is by offering scholarships to women who are studying and working in transportation. We have both local scholarships that are put out by local chapters, and at the international level, we have international scholarships. And what's interesting about WTS is that the international scholarship, you have to apply through one of the local chapters. So we take our scholarship applicants and the folks who are awarded our local scholarships are then entered as our chapter's candidates for the international scholarship, all with the same application. So it's fairly transparent to you. We have scholarships at all educational levels. I've got them listed there: grad, undergrad, trade school, community college. That one, we get the least number of applicants. And also graduating high school seniors. I know there are none online right now, but if you know someone, please spread the word. So I mentioned that we are the local chapter for the Bay Area and Monterey Bay. There's also a bit of gap in coverage in the state for Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. So in addition to folks who go to school, live, or work in one of these 12 counties, if someone is currently studying or has been accepted to Cal Poly SLO, we will consider the application as well. Our applications aren't out yet, but they will be soon. I'm anticipating having them up on the website by October 13th. I also have a number of professors at schools around the Bay Area and the greater Monterey Bay Area who we send applications out directly, and they're kind enough to promote them. So you may see the application through that source as well. They will be due January 5th, 2024. So, as you are at home bored over the holidays, you have time to perfect that essay. I've got the website that it should be available. And again, if it's not working for any reason, please feel free to contact me at that email address. Mea culpa, I see my first typo. Moving on to the next slide. I was asked to provide some useful tips, and I also have some of the questions I get asked most frequently. None of these are exactly earth-shattering. I just recommend that if you're going to apply, read through what's required as early as possible, because getting your transcript and recommendation letters could be long lead time items. If you have any questions, please feel free to call or email. Email is actually much more reliable. I do answer questions personally, and give me a couple of days to respond. the next bullet is kind of obvious, and I think that the previous speaker touched on it much better. But our scholarship requirements and themes look fairly similar, but there are some subtle differences between them. Some focus more on your intended career path in transportation, and others are more leadership oriented. So I do encourage people to read through carefully and highlight those particular areas. And the other thing, again, obvious, get it in on time. Generally, I'll accept until the latest time on the due date will be on the application, and we do enforce it. So I mentioned that there are multiple scholarships, and we have multiple scholarships at each educational level. Yes, it is okay to apply to more than one. In fact, most people do. You do, in fact, have to fill out a separate application, although they look pretty close to each other. And you can even use the same recommendation letters. Your recommender only needs to send one, and they can send it direct to me via email or through snail mail. It does not have to be attached to your application package. I mentioned that the international level, you apply through the chapters, and because people can live in one chapter's territory and go to school in another, we allow you to apply through both. That's not a problem for San Francisco and Monterey Bay, but I do know that some of the other chapters are restrictive like that. I think Orange County is one. And I would recommend that you contact the other chapter directly. And I've given all California examples, but this is an international organization, so it covers pretty much the entire United States and some parts of Canada and Puerto Rico. Check in and see if there is a chapter near where you may be working or have originated. So next slide, please. So I was just going to wrap up with some other opportunities. I didn't see the agenda, so I didn't realize COMTO was on right after this. You'll get a full presentation. And the other one is actually a different opportunity directly through WTS International Strategic Partner Scholarships that are sponsored by our corporate partners. And for those, you apply directly through the WTS International website, and I have that information here. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm open for questions.
Marcella, thank you so much for your time and the presentation. And I'm remiss, I said your name incorrectly at the beginning of the presentation, so I apologize for that. Thank you for the correction.
Well, that is the way it's spelled in English. I'll respond to pretty much anything at this point. So please don't be embarrassed.
So I have a question, and I asked you this over email. I did apply for one of the scholarships, but I did not receive this particular one. But it's just I asked you the question that I live in Rockland, which is Placer County. Mm-hmm. We have a chapter here. It's the Sacramento chapter. And then I also work in the Bay Area, which is affiliated with the, I believe it's the San Francisco chapter. And I asked you the question, can I apply to both chapters through their scholarship programs?
And my answer is yes, we do allow that in the San Francisco Bay chapter. I do not know what Sacramento's policies are. I would say that, we will only do one award though. So if you get our awarded Sacramento's scholarship, then we would not, and that happens before we've made our decision, then we wouldn't consider you for ours.
Thank you. Very helpful. Do we have any other questions out there? It doesn't look like it. Marcella, thank you so much for your time. Feel free to stay with us. Here's a question. It says from Rodney, is it for women only?
Yes, it is for women only. Women, and I think the phrase from international is female and female identifying.
Thank you. Okay. Well, I invite you to stay with us if you have time, but if not, we won't be offended. And thank you again.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Justin and Kimberly from COMTO. Let me just fire up their presentation.
Great. Thanks, Jane, and thanks for bringing us on board. Marcella, I see you. I think Jane purposely placed you ahead of us, COMTO, because you kind of introduced us at the end of your presentation. But we are here today. Awesome. And I see a bit of a quiet crowd, but it's okay. I would say, as students, definitely pay attention to the requirements and the application process, because they kind of differ between these different organizations. For instance, once I talk through the COMPO ones, you'll kind of see ours is a little bit different too. But I'm Justin Montgomery. I'm part of COMTO NorCal. And if you go to the next slide, I am the co-membership chair for our Northern California chapter. And I'm also on board with Kimberly Wilson. She's here today as well, and she is the scholarship chair. So I'm going to briefly run through this presentation, and hopefully you have some questions. If not, we'll just fill you up with some more information. All right, jump to the next slide. So I wanted to give you an overview of COMTO just really quick. Stands for Conference on Minority Transportation Officials, founded in 1971. And we are an advocacy group for different opportunities, or providing different opportunities for people within the transportation industry. Several other people gave their backgrounds. My background is in civil engineering, and I'm currently actually working at SFO, building out, or San Francisco International Airport. We're building out a new terminal. We're working on the new Terminal 1, open up half of it and working on the second part right now. We got a crane on site. It looks like we're about to install some pedestrian boarding bridges. All right, and if you jump to the next slide, some membership benefits. So by joining COMTO, you get to network with other professionals inside the transportation industry. We have a members only directory. They just kicked off a new kind of social media platform. Once you do become a member, it's kind of like your Facebook type setup or LinkedIn type profile. We create a profile. You can see other people in different agencies and stuff like that. And a lot of networking opportunities. You can talk to them within the social app, or you can go out and meet them at our different COMTO events. And we have COMTO events. I didn't provide a list on them here, but we have COMTO events almost every month. But you can see our events from our chapter website or the national website. All right, and if you jump to the next slide, the reason why I wanted to touch about COMTO membership is because in order to apply for our scholarships, you have to become a COMTO member. And great news for all of you students. As of last year, all of our student memberships are free. So all you have to do is sign up. Isn't that awesome? Yeah, I can see some people laughing even though their cameras are turned off. So there's a QR code here, but if you don't go to the QR code, you can just go to our website, compto.org, and just go under membership so you can sign up there. Awesome. So, oh yeah, there we go. COMTO, awesome. Okay, so next slide, we're going to talk about our scholarships. So the Last year, we awarded over $20,000 in scholarships from our local chapter. This year, we're looking to do the same, if not more. So several of our scholarships that we have listed here, our Rosa Parks Scholarship Award is our largest one, $6,000. We have our Curtis Green Award, which is $5,000. Sharon Banks, $3,000. And then we usually give out a number of chapter merit awards, $2,000 each. Last year, we gave out 3. Looking to at least do 3 or even more this year. And if you do apply for these scholarships, I would say also look up the people's names, like who Rosa Parks, Curtis Green, or Sharon Banks, because if you are awarded and come to our award ceremony, you might get asked that question. Just FYI. All right, let's jump to the next slide. All right, dates and eligibility criteria. So our scholarships are currently open now online, and they're open through the end of October 20th is the deadline. Let's see, you'll be notified by November 10th, and then we have an award gala ceremony December 1st. Eligibility requirements, you have to be an undergrad or graduate student, resident in the state of California, or enrolled inside a university or community college in Northern California. Demonstrate the intent to pursue a career in transportation. Demonstrate financial need. Have a GPA above a 2.5. And as an undergrad, you have to at least be entering into your sophomore year. So it's not for high school students. Jump to the next slide. Talk about our application form. So our application form is found on our website, COMTO.org, under scholarships. And similar to several other organizations that spoke, it's a student application form that you have to fill out, which is pretty much your basic information. And then you have 2 essays you have to complete. One is a letter of motivation, which is it gives you more information on the actual essay when you go into the application, but you really want to talk about what actually gets you into like the transportation field. And then the statement of financial need, which is similar to, I think, what Marcella's speaking about. It's kind of straightforward. Why do you feel as though you could benefit from being awarded these scholarship dollars? College transcripts, your resume, and then 2 letters of, one mandatory reference letter, and then 2 are suggested. So you can pretty much submit more than 1 reference. And then to reiterate, the deadline is October 20th. Okay, so make sure you get them in. I know in years past, some people missed the deadline, or not too many people apply. We actually had a couple years ago, I think it was around the COVID year, but let's say we gave out 6 scholarships and only about 10 people applied. So, I mean, pretty good percentage right there. Right? All right, let's jump to the next slide. And like the next one is, yes, the actual scholarship link. So you can scan the QR code here too, or you can go to the actual website and apply. I think it's fairly straightforward, the application process itself. But if you have any questions once you look through it, feel free to reach out to myself or Kimberly, and we can help you through it as well. And I think that is the last slide I have for questions. Awesome. So I think I covered the bulk of it, but let me get some questions.
Great. No questions. Official or unofficial transcripts. Doesn't matter. You can actually provide unofficial transcripts. Makes it a lot easier. Is the scholarship once a year? Indeed. Every year in the fall, there is a scholarship process for COMTO. COMTO National also has a scholarship. What are some of the things you look for in the letter of motivation? All of the details are outlined. They're bullets that each of the applicants are asked to address. for both the statement of financial need as well as the letter of motivation. So answer those questions. Does the membership expire after you graduate from school? The membership is, oh, I'm sorry, Justin, your membership.
No, it won't expire right after you graduate. It'll continue on for an additional year as a student membership. But then after that year, then you will have to reapply as a individual, or you can reapply through your company if your company has a membership with COMTO already.
How much is a COMTO membership?
$125 for the course of the year, from when you sign up until 1 year after. They used to expire at the end of December, but now they cycle on from when you first sign up and then 1 year after that.
And remember, that is not student membership. That is professional individual membership. Student membership is free.
How can you find out if your company has a membership? I'm not sure you can. You can actually just ask me. What company are you with? I can look it up for you and get that to you.
That would be SoCal chapter.
Yeah, that would be. Rodney, I would have to touch base with the SoCal chapter. Send me your email address. I'm gonna get back to you.
Rodney, I'll connect you. I'll send you an email and I'll connect you with Justin.
And does Caltrans have a membership?
Caltrans has a membership with COMTO, or COMTO NorCal. They sure do. So.
A question of the people who are on the call, just by raising your hand, how many of you have heard of COMTO prior to this event? Okay, and how many of you are members?
I'm cheating a little bit because I've been to two COMTO events this year, so I would definitely recommend it to the other students here. It's a great opportunity to meet other professionals in transportation, and you can meet great mentors, and of course, the scholarship application to continue your education. Like they said, it's free, so nothing is stopping you right now from clicking the link and, pulling out your phone and signing up right away so that you can be a part of this opportunity.
What were the two events you attended?
I believe I attended Rashida Barnes' ceremony to congratulate him on being the CEO of Contra Costa County, and I was at the first meeting for COMTO members. So those were my two events this year.
Thank you.
Joyce, to answer your question, international students, yes, they can apply as well, as long as you're in a Northern California school. I did not mention, but Kimberly did bring it up as well. COMTO National also has a scholarship program too. Their application is very identical to ours, and it goes on until the end of December, I believe. And then those candidates are notified like in February or March. And Jane, actually, I believe you mentioned you were scholarship awardee back in 2022, right? But
Correct. Yes, I won the
scholarship money.
national. Correct, a national award as and I applied. And I when I applied, I didn't know the difference between the chapters and the national. And it wasn't until maybe many years out that I was doing these applications that I kind of started to understand there's differences between chapters versus national. So you can actually, in some cases, you may double opportunity to apply for these scholarships if it's allowed. So
indeed. COMTO NorCal has awarded a local chapter scholarship, and the same person received a national. So yes, it's possible to get national and local.
So unfortunately, Justin and Kimberly, I have to put a pause on our presentation.
That's
We
fine.
have to move on to our next speaker, but this is incredibly engaging. Thank you so much for your time. So many questions. I'm so excited to see such involvement in with the folks in attendance today. And I will, if it's okay, may I share your emails with the group? If they have any questions, they can reach out. Is that okay, or is it?
Yes, it's okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Share my screen. So next up, we have Paige, who is going to do a presentation on her experience as a scholarship recipient. And she actually is going to do it extemporaneous. There is no presentation. So Paige, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. A little bit about my background. I am a graduate of the Transportation Management Program, have my master's degree in that, and then also received the certification for high-speed rail management. Graduated this past spring, and scholarships really helped me pay for this education. This wouldn't be possible if it were not for the generosity of these programs. Particularly, I'll give a shout out to WTS. I was the recent recipient of the Overly Graduate Scholarship for this year, and that helped me pay for the last portion of my studies, as well as a travel opportunity I had to present some research. When we're talking about scholarships and applying, I think the thing I'd like you all to know first is that there tends to be a misconception that all scholarships are need-based, but there's a lot of opportunities that are merit-based and also professional-based. So things like covering costs of going to conferences, professional development, traveling to present research papers. All of this is possible as a student, and you can tap into these funds. I think we also need to talk about how applying for these things is kind of an emotional thing. You might be having feelings like, oh, do I qualify? Should I apply for this if I don't know if I really meet all of these qualifications? Or maybe I'm doing all right with paying for things, but there could be somebody who's more deserving than me for these funds. And those are totally valid, but you should know that you're worthy and deserving of these opportunities, and you're worthy and deserving of having an investment in your education and goals. Among some of these opportunities that are out there that are merit-based are the MTI Scholarship. This is one that I applied for and received each of the 3 times that it was applicable. The MTI Scholarship occurs twice a year, and it is based on getting good grades. And it's really getting a 3.0 or higher in your classes, which is what you need to graduate. So you should be performing at this level anyways to be receiving credit for your classes. And this scholarship gives you a range from $600 to $800 per semester. And all it is filling out a Google form. It takes maybe 10 minutes to fill out, and you're considered for this scholarship. It's super easy. Highly recommend keeping an eye out for that one when it comes through in your email. Another one, I'll talk a little bit about the WTS scholarship that I applied for. The tips that Marcella had were spot on. Following the instructions is the most important thing for applying for a scholarship. Take the time to read through the instructions, do exactly what they ask for, be very clear in your writing, and make sure that it tells a compelling story. This making sure everything looks polished and everything is being turned in on time, and you're delivering what they're asked for is communicating to those scholarship sponsors that you're somebody who can be responsible with money, and you're showing who they're investing in the way that you present yourself, not only in your story, but how you organize your writing and your application. So I'd say be very much on top of paying attention to detail in addition to your story. I'll also talk a little bit about my travel scholarship that I won, because this is something that I think is unique and that not many people know about. The graduate school at SJSU offers scholarships for all graduate students. So this could be whether you're in urban planning or transportation management or something else. And basically, you can apply for $1,500 a year to go to a conference or to present a research paper or another professional development that's related to your degree. And that is for anything domestic within the United States. You can also apply for a $2,000 scholarship for any of those things internationally. So conferences that are international, presenting a paper internationally, doing professional development that's international. And I'll drop the link to that into the chat. So I applied for these. I believe you can only get one a year for these scholarship opportunities. And again, this is a Google form that you fill out. It takes maybe a half hour. You just have to go find the things that they're asking for, such as the registration fee, an estimate of travel costs, the duration of the conference, what you're hoping to do there, and put all this into the form. So my first one, the one that I did domestically, was for an APTA conference that was being held in Philadelphia on high-speed rail, which was what my concentration was in. I was awarded a $1,500 scholarship to attend that. The key for domestic travel as well is that it does have to adhere to the California rules for equality for travel. So if you're going to a state that might have more, I guess, have passed some controversial legislation this year, they will not fund travel to that. But if you're going to places like within the state of California, anywhere on the East Coast or West Coast, you're probably going to be okay with that. But just check ahead of time when you're applying to make sure that your location of the conference does qualify for that. So international conferences. So this I did earlier this year. My paper that I was writing in a class was submitted and selected for presentation at the World Congress on High-Speed Rail. And I was able to use this travel scholarship to attend a conference in Morocco, and it paid for airfare and hotel to basically go and network with professionals that were coming from around the world to focus on this topic and also give a talk about the paper whilst I was there. So that was a really fantastic opportunity. It's something that I might not have been able to do if it weren't for the opportunity through the business school. But it's something I would highly recommend if you're going to conferences, if you're looking to build your network professionally, whether that's domestically or abroad. These are great resources to tap into. It's something that I found that is unique to SJSU as far as the generosity of these programs. So I would very much suggest taking advantage of that whilst you're a student here. Other tips for just general applications would be, if you're needing a letter of recommendation, to request that early. I would say you need at least 2 weeks for your people to respond to you to write that, because it does take a little bit of time to do. What you can do ahead of time, reach out to your boss, for example, and say, I'm applying for this scholarship. Would you be willing to write me a letter of recommendation? Yes. Okay, great. The next step is to give them basically some bullet points to draft a letter for. So what are specific things that you need written about and championed for you that are going to make your application successful? And by giving this template to your boss, it makes their job easier. They're going to write exactly what you need to be successful in your application. And they're also going to be able to turn that letter around in time. You can also tell them to try and keep it top level so that if you're applying for multiple scholarships, you can recycle this letter and submit it for different scholarships. So that way you don't have to have them going back and forth every couple of weeks and saying, hey, boss, I need you to write another letter for this because I'm applying for a second scholarship. You can just have them write one that fits the bill for all of them and then send them into each application. That's totally okay. It's really just championing what your credentials are, and it's creating less work on your recommenders end as well. So making it as easy as possible for them is going to really kind of speed up the process and create a good experience for your boss for helping you out too. Another tip that I'll also say is when you're receiving these monies to you think of it as you're probably getting reimbursed for something that you're already paying if you're applying for a scholarship. So these monies might arrive at a time after you've already paid tuition, but you don't have your next tuition bill that has come up yet. For the MTI program, for the transportation management program, we would typically have the summers off, and we might be receiving the awards during the summertime. So you might have, say, 3 months or so before you need to make a payment for your class. What you could do in the meantime, so that money doesn't get spent or put somewhere else, is you can open up a high yield savings account to place that money in, and that's earning interest in the time whilst you're waiting to pay your tuition. So you can have, right now, I think the interest rate is close to 5%. So if, say, you get a $1,000 scholarship, every time you keep that in there, you could earn up to about an extra $50 on that $1,000 whilst you keep it in that savings account, waiting to pay your bill. So it's just something extra that you can do to be mindful of your money and really make the most of your investment. That's a couple of the tips that I have. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about the experience or tips you might need or anything like that.
Any questions from any of the folks in attendance? Laura?
Hey, Paige, could you talk a little bit more about how you got your essay nominated? Who did you submit it to, and how can other students, I guess something like that, because I'm trying to think, if I have written a research paper, which organization would accept it, and how could I get it nominated to be presented at a conference?
So the paper that I had submitted, there was a call for papers, and it was submitted through the International Union of Railways. It's an organization that I'm a member of. So what you could do is look for call for papers or presentations at conferences at organizations that you're a member of. So for example, if you were to join COMTO, they would have like a call for presentations for an upcoming conference, and you could submit either an abstract idea for a presentation or perhaps for a paper and be able to be in the running for that. They would then select the paper and say, here is your opportunity. And it's usually far enough in advance where you can have, several months to make accommodations and plans. And then at that point, you could reach out to the school for the scholarship and say, here's, what my proposal is, and this is what I'm going to present on. So my first suggestion would be join a professional organization whilst you're in school. There are loads of opportunities for student memberships that are complimentary. I'd recommend, if you're not already in APTA, to sign up for APTA, because you can get a complimentary registration for that through MTI. So that is another great benefit of being at SJSU. And once you're in APTA, you can participate in their conferences, whether that's the big annual conference or through the individual committees and giving presentations and involvement there. So sign up for as many of those as you can with your student memberships, and then submit papers that you're writing. It could just be something from class that you're working on that is very interesting, that you feel very proud about, and you want to move forward with. The papers I've worked on basically kind of started out in class and kind of grew as I was going through the program. So there were things that had accumulated over time that I was happy to have the opportunity to talk about at a professional level.
Great.
The link for the MTI scholarship, I believe that's emailed out to the students at the end of the semester. I don't have it on hand because it's a Google form.
Correct. So I have a deck that I will send out, Rodney, that will have a link to just the content of the scholarship, the fellowship, and then you have to keep an eye out during the school year for an email from the Graduate Studies Office, and they'll send you the form that you'll need to fill out. Well, Paige, thank you so much for your presentation. Very, very informative. And I'm going to have to look up your paper to read. I'm really excited to read it now that I've learned more about it. So I'll keep a lookout for it. But thank you again for your time, and appreciate you coming today to present with all the other speakers. And let me see, just have one more slide to share, and then we'll close out the meeting. So let's see. So I just have a couple tips to share with folks on just application tips. A number of these things were covered by all of our speakers. And just keep in mind when you do your application, do a few of these things. Just follow the directions. That's just the number one thing. If you can follow the directions, you're pretty much at a good start. Again, you can start with the school or program. If you're undergrad, talk to your professors. Maybe they have a scholarship suggestion that you could apply for. In the grad program, you can reach out to Tiffany in our MTI graduate school office, and she can probably let you know when those applications will be sent out. In your essays, make sure you're answering the question that is asked in the application. And you can use, content that you've used before to recycle some of the information so you don't have to write it, but make sure that it's applicable to the scholarship that you're applying for. So if it doesn't make sense, the scholarship reviewers is probably going to think that it's not going to make sense. Keep track of all your deadlines. Scholarships have varying deadlines throughout the year. So make sure you remember which ones due first and which ones due next so that you don't get them all mixed up. I have a folder in my shared drive that I keep all of the different scholarships, and I put actually the date that they're due into the folder title so that I know when I have to turn all the stuff in. And again, start early. Use templates if you can to save you some time. And then also there's lots of opportunities out there in the national market for scholarships for transportation. So please look there. In terms of things that you don't or shouldn't do, there's only a few that I can think of. Just don't go off topic in your essay. Don't go over word counts. If there is a specific word count, keep within that limit. It may actually preclude your application if you go over. And then don't forget to proofread, spell check, have somebody read through your application to check for errors and before you turn it in. And here's some links. There's different scholarships that we were speaking about today. There's a couple that we didn't cover, like the American Bus Association. They have a number of awards that are applicable to any of the fields that we are studying here at San Jose State. ITS also has a couple that I've seen our students win as well. And then again, the MTI Fellowship. So I think that's it for questions. And I'd like to thank all the speakers today for your attendance. In the last hour, I'd like to thank Sydney from CTF, Marcella from WTS, Justin and Kimberly from COMTO, and Paige as a former scholarship recipient. Thank you so much for your time and really appreciate your time today.